Now, the Royal Air Force was formed towards the end of the First World War. Next week sees a spectacular display, or will see one, in the skies over London to celebrate its 100th anniversary.
Yeah, so the BBC's Sophie Raworth has been taking a look at the life of her grandfather, Edwin, who was one of the RAF's original pilots. He was, of course, risking his life for his country.
Oh, it's really heavy, this.
Oh, goodness.
It's so heavy.
It started with a battered suitcase in my parents' cellar.
Wow, oh my goodness, look at that.
My grandfather had rarely spoken about his service with the Royal Flying Corps. He'd forged his birth certificate to join up at 17, and here, along with his uniform cap, were clues to his experiences in the closing months of the First World War. The role of air power changed dramatically during the war. Unarmed tiny machines designed for taking pictures of the battlefields quickly evolved into fighter planes and bombers. The faces of the men who flew them line the walls at the RAF Museum in Hendon. Around and above them are aircraft so flimsy it makes you wonder how they stayed in the air.
Amazing, these planes in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And here is a BE-2.
That's what my grandfather flew, a BE-2.
Absolutely. It's this type here. The construction is amazing. It's a wooden frame around which is stretched the Irish linen, and you can hear it's tight, and it's also been lacquered.
It looks so fragile, so flimsy.
That's right. Well, early construction techniques were kind of a bit of trial and error. The whole thing, the wings are braced in shape with piano wires.
My grandfather would have been only too aware of the risks he faced. More than 14,000 British pilots were killed. Many more simply disappeared over the battlefields. As a bomber pilot, Edwin Raworth's chances of survival were better than the men dubbed the Suicide Squad. Exhausted and living on their nerves, most fighter pilots only lasted a few weeks. At an airfield in the Thames Valley, I could at least get a sense of what my grandfather went through. My father had spoken of the BE-2 aircraft that my grandfather had trained in. This replica is virtually identical. I never met my grandfather, but for a few moments I had an idea of what it must have been like for him up there, a frightened teenager in the skies above France. Edwin Raworth was one of the original pilots 100 years ago. What he did and saw scarred him so much that when he left the RAF, he never flew again. Sophie Raworth, BBC News.
It's incredible.